how are you entitled to any money right now? The Federal Reserve doesn't have any earnings.
Well, we've heard of this theory. I think it's one of the latest
It's not a theory. It's a congressional
Well,
statute.
I think there's you raise the difference between revenue and net income. There are other places throughout our laws. I can tell you we've looked at this issue. We do believe wholeheartedly everyone is complying with the statute.
I know you believe that, but if you look at
I'm aware with what you said,
if I could just finish my question.
Sure.
If you read...
Hey everyone, welcome back to Capital Insights. Today we're diving into a fiery exchange between Senator John Kennedy and CFPB Director ROHIT Chopra. This hearing was packed with drama, and I'm breaking it all down for you. Let's get into it. So picture this. Senator Kennedy starts grilling Chopra about the difference between revenue and earnings. Now, you'd think this would be a softball question for the director of a financial protection bureau, right? Wrong. Chopra stumbles, and Kennedy swoops in to school him. Revenue is before expenses, earnings are after. Simple stuff, folks, but apparently not for everyone. Now, here's where it gets juicy. Kennedy shifts gears to the CFPB's funding. He points out that the Bureau gets its cash from the Federal Reserve's earnings. But here's the kicker. The Fed hasn't had any earnings since September 2022. Kennedy's basically saying, no earnings, no funding. It's like trying to withdraw money from an empty bank account. Doesn't work, does it? This is where Kennedy drops the bomb. He accuses the CFPB of operating illegally. Can you believe it? A government agency potentially breaking the law? Chopra tries to defend himself, saying they've looked into this before, but Kennedy's not buying it. The tension in that room must have been thicker than peanut butter. Just when you think it can't get any spicier, Kennedy throws PayPal and Chase Bank into the mix. We're talking potential censorship and using your transaction data for ads. Yikes! It's like your bank is becoming Big Brother. Not cool, right? Before we wrap up, if you're loving this breakdown of political drama, smash that subscribe button. You don't want to miss out on more juicy government showdowns like this one.
What's the difference between revenue and earnings?
Well, these are all used colloquially. Sometimes those are similar. In GAAP accounting, which is what most U.S. companies use.
Don't tell me about GAAP. Just tell me your understanding of the difference between revenue and earnings.
Well, I can share with you revenue and net income. So those are the two factors that when you say are on financial statements.
Earnings is another word for net income.
Well, earnings can be used for many different things, but in generally accepted accounting principles, net income is what all of our banks are really using.
Okay. What revenue is before expenses and earnings, net income, is after expenses. Is that
No, I think like when people go to work, they say, my earnings were this. I mean, that's their salary. So I think we tend to look at accounting definitions.
They may say that, but when you analyze a financial statement, you look at expenses, don't you? You don't just equate revenue with earnings, do you?
Oh, totally. And I think your suggestion that we think companies are too profitable, we think about competition.
I understand.
What are the options people have
here's
in order to...
Here's what is confusing me. We all know, unless you were playing Frisbee on the quad during Econ 101 or Accounting 101, there's a difference between revenue and earnings. I want to ask about the way you're funded. I looked at Congress's statute. I'm looking for it here. It says, here's how you're funded. And you just won your lawsuit in the Supreme Court. Each year, beginning on the designated transfer date, in each quarter thereafter, the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve, where you get your money, shall transfer to your agency from the combined earnings of the Federal Reserve System the amount determined by the director to be reasonably necessary to carry out the authorities of the Bureau. It says the combined earnings, not the revenue. Now, for the longest time, the Federal Reserve was earning money, but that stopped in September of 2022? Now, they are losing money. They don't have any earnings. They're no longer transferring earnings to the general fund. And the Supreme Court based its decision on saying that this funding scheme is constitutional under the Appropriations Clause by saying that these earnings would go to the general fund from the Federal Reserve, so getting them directly from the general fund is no big deal. How are you entitled to any money right now? The Federal Reserve doesn't have any earnings.
Well, we've heard of this theory. I think it's one of the latest ones.
It's not a
that's
theory.
being
It's a
pushed.
congressional
Well,
statute.
I think there's you raised the difference between revenue and net income. There are other places throughout our laws. I can tell you we've looked at this issue. We do believe wholeheartedly everyone is complying with the statute.
I know you believe that, but if you look at
I'm aware with what you said.
if you
revenue
read,
and net
if you
income.
read if I could just finish my question.
Sure.
If you read the opinion, and I did, and you read the statute, it says here, bigger than Dallas. You can only get your money from the Federal Reserve out of earnings. Now, the Federal Reserve has not had any earnings since September of 2022. Isn't that correct?
No, that's not correct.
Sure, it's
From
correct.
a net income
All
perspective,
you have to do is
you're
go-
right.
is go-
But they've
go-
generated lots
go
of
ask
fees
OMB.
and income. And I appreciate what you're saying. I'm happy to discuss this with you, but I think we've looked at this.
My point is, every penny you've gotten under this congressional
I don't think
statute,
Congress wanted
every
the
penny
CFPB to be
that you
suddenly
have gotten, if I could
defunded.
finish my thought.
Sure.
I know you don't like to hear this, but the law is the law. You've been operating illegally.
No, that's not true, sir.
Yes, you have. There have been no earnings. Doesn't this put in jeopardy every one of your rules?
We've heard this
and
theory
every
before,
one
and I'm
of
happy to
and
discuss it.
well, you're going to hear it again because it's the law. We didn't say revenue in the statute. We said earnings. How can you possibly argue that the Federal Reserve has had earnings? They're losing money.
I'm happy to discuss this with you, but we have looked at this theory before.
I know you have.
All right, folks, that's the rundown of this epic face-off. Kennedy came in hot, Chopra seemed to be sweating, and we're left with some big questions about the CFPB's funding and operations. Plus, don't forget about those privacy concerns with big banks. It's clear this story is far from over, so stay tuned for more updates. Until next time, keep questioning and stay informed.